Welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of Nutanix Community Edition. This is your host, Jam, asking you not to forget about those like and subscribe buttons, and reminding you to please comment below about any topics you would like to see me cover in the future. In our last episode, we installed a single node Nutanix Community Edition cluster on Scully MyGen 6 Intel NUC. In this episode, we are going to log into a Prism Element UI, prepare the environment for workloads, and build our very first virtual machine. In order to complete this lab, you will need the environmental cheat sheet and Vertio driver ISO referenced in last episode, as well as a Windows Server or Windows Desktop ISO. If you do not have access to Windows ISOs, you can get a 180-day free trial from Microsoft.com. The link is in the description. Any technical issues you run into while trying to follow along with this video, please navigate on over to the next community page and start a thread. A member of this wonderful community will help you on your journey. All right, let's get started. In order to log in to your Nutanix Community Edition cluster, you will need the IP address of cluster of your CVM. Open your favorite browser and navigate to CVM IP. This will open an unsecured connection over HTTPS, and you will need to manually accept the connection. Once you have done that, the Nutanix Prism login page will appear. Please use the default username and password from the environmental cheat sheet to log in. You will be asked to create a new password for this cluster. Once you have changed your password, you will be asked to verify it by logging. At this time, you will be asked to provide your next user credentials from the Nutanix Next community. Once those credentials have been provided, you've been logged into the Prism UI, the user interface. This is where all of your management and day-to-day operations will take place. Let me just zoom in a little bit here so you can easily see a little bit better. You can tell that it's Community Edition because of this nifty little CE Community Edition up here in the corner. First, let's name our cluster, then we can provide the cluster virtual IP address. SCSI Data Service IP, which should all be documented in your environmental cheat sheet. Sorry. You can all ignore this warning because we are not actually changing the SCSI Data Services IP address, but rather just defining it for the first time. Virtual IP and SCSI Data Services IPs will be used in more advanced configurations, but it's a great idea to set them on every cluster that you build so that you have them and you are in that habit. Now that we have our cluster named and a proper management IP set for Community Edition cluster, it's time to add a network for your virtual machines to run on. I know it sounds like it might be somehow involved or difficult, but I can assure you that if you have your cheat sheet filled out, you are almost done. Please follow me to the network configuration page by clicking the cog in the top right corner and scrolling down to network configurations. For the purpose of getting started today, we are going to check on the configuration of our name server, add an NTP server and add our primary workload VLAN. All the information you need to get this done is in your environmental cheat sheet. First, let's click on the name servers. You should see the IP of your DNS server from the cheat sheet. If you do not, please add it. Click on NTP servers on the left hand menu and type in the NTP server that you wish to use here. I will be using pool.mtp.org servers. I'm going to add tube.2.pool.ntp.org and let's move over to network configuration. On this page, you will click the blue link for create network and provide a name. I'm using my cluster name as a prefix. Just one of my suggestions for good housekeeping. For VLAN ID, if you do not know that VLAN you are on or do not have VLANs on your network, this value for you will likely be 0. However, in my environment, I am using VLAN 2, so I will set that ID here and click Save. Alright, that's it for the networking piece. Perhaps in a future episodes we will be able to get into more advanced networking. Leave a comment below if you would like to see. Alright, let's pop on over to storage. I'm not going to go into great detail about our storage capabilities or architecture in this video. I'm just going to create a simple storage container for you to use for all of your workloads. Click the drop down and select storage. Navigate over to the table view and click add storage container button in the top right corner. Again, I'm going to use my cluster name as a prefix for my primary container. Click Save. Alright, that's it. Now you have a logical storage volume for all of your clustered data. No LUNs, no RAIDs, no problems. Alright, now that we have our networking storage configured for our environment, it's time to get some images into the image repository so that we can build our first virtual workloads. If you have not already downloaded your Windows ISO images mentioned earlier, go ahead and do that now. If you press pause, I promise I will wait. Once you have ensured that you have the ISOs in question, click on the cog in the top right corner and scroll to image configuration. It should be at the top of the screen. Click upload image. For this part, I like to make sure that my image names match the ISO names exactly, so I scroll right down to the bottom and select upload a file. Click the choose file button and navigate to my ISO image. I'm going to select the Vortio ISO first, but I am also going to copy the file name field. Click open and paste the file name in the name field here. I also want to ensure that I select the storage container built earlier in this video. Click Save. Go ahead and repeat that process for the Windows. Now that you have uploaded a Windows ISO and the Vertio ISO, created a storage pool, and configured the networking, we can finally begin to build out our workloads. Now, next step is preparing our first virtual machine. Back to the drop down, we go click VM and pop on over to the table view. Click the Create VM button on the top right to bring up the VM creation dialog box. For the purposes of this video, I am going to name this VM Windows VM1. I'm going to provide this VM with two virtual CPUs, 4 gigs of memory, and then from a disk perspective, we are going to mount from clone from image service our Windows ISO in the first DVD drive. We are going to add an additional CD-ROM drive, clone from image service, and bring those the Nutanix Vertio driver ISO. And lastly, we are going to add an installation disk, most important, which we are going to allocate on the storage container. And make sure we move on down to Scully primary. I'm only going to provide this with 6 gigs just as a base install. And remember, in all of that is thin provisioned, so it will not take up all of that space unless of course you write data into it. Last piece here is adding the network adapter. We are going to click add new NIC Scully primary. In this case VLAN ID 2. Yours is probably VLAN ID 0 or matches your environmental cheat sheet. We are going to leave the network connection. State as connected and click add. Once we have completed that process and that naming using memory, providing the Vertio ISO drive, the Windows ISO, and the installed disk as well as an NIC, we are able to click save. And that will generate the virtual machine right here in our VM table. In the VM table, you can select the Windows VM1 by clicking on it one time. Scroll down to the table break, click power on, and wait for the launch console button to turn into blue. Once it has turned blue, go ahead and click on that to launch a VNC console session to your VM. While this boots, I want to let you know why I choose a Windows VM for this exercise. Nutanix AHV relies on networking and storage drivers that are not natively installed on a Windows ISO. You will need to add them manually during the installation process. So any of you who have not added the Vertio drivers ISO to this VM, please go ahead and do that now. As always, if you pause this video, I will prompt